Good morning. I do want to thank everybody for coming on time. It is 10 in 1 minute, but we are going to start on time. But I just think it's important to thank those who come on time for doing so. And we're going to have a the first 3 items on our agenda require a presentation, and it can be by the same person. So whoever that might be representing the administration, since these are at request, can come to the table at this time. That's all. We'll start in 5 minutes. Mr. Torrey, as soon as you see 3 council members, feel free to come on up. Okay.
So you're not gonna, so you're not gonna take number 6 first?
No, because he's here.
All right, okay.
Come on down. You want to take that other chair? No. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the meeting of the Public Works, Sanitation, and Environmental Committee. We do have a quorum at present, so we'll do roll call for the record. And then I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the July 26th meeting.
Council member?
Roll call?
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't hear the beginning of that. Yes, roll call. Council member Thomas, absent. Council member Giarrusso. Council member Harris. Council member King. And Council member Green. We have a quorum.
Present. And in the absence of Council member Thomas, and I ask us all to remember him in our prayers at the passing of his mother, I'll be chairing this morning's meeting. I'll entertain a motion from a council member to approve the minutes of the July 26th meeting. So moved, Council member Giarrusso. Seconded, Council member Harris. All in favor? Aye. There being no opposition, we move forward. Vote our machines for the record, and those minutes are approved. At this time, we'll ask Mr. Matt Torrey to come by and speak to us on issues, especially 3 and 4, relative to the curbside recycling cart contract and the roll-off truck service and operator contract. Thank you, Mr. Torrey, for being here. And thank your sanitation crews. I just went under the 610 this morning. They're doing a fine job. Unfortunately, responding to criminal dumping, but it's part of the processes, I guess, of growing as a city.
Great. Well, morning, council. Thank you for having me here. I'm here just on 2 contract amendment or extensions. The first being IPL North America Incorporated Amendment 3. This is for the city's curbside recycling carts. This is the provider of those carts. Contract has been in place since 2018. We're simply seeking to enact one of our remaining extensions to continue to buy curbside recycling carts for residents that opt in to the city's recycling program. The second contract that I'm here for is MDL Enterprises LLC. This is for supplemental roll-off service with operators. So MDL is a provider of supplemental equipment for the Department of Sanitation. They support us during Mardi Gras, and they also have been supporting us over the past year through the supplemental support of illegal dumping remediation. So these roll-offs you've probably seen them around the city with front-end loaders removing dumping, and MDL has been instrumental in significantly reducing the backlog of illegal dumping. We are currently working on requests submitted in July. So, very short turnaround compared to the 8 to 10 month turnaround that we were looking at for years after Hurricane Ida. Happy to answer any questions on either of the contract amendments.
Are there any questions, council members? Are there any public comments? Well, we're going to vote on each of these motions separately, but as we vote, I do want to emphasize what I said formally on the record. It's a challenge sometimes in our city relative to illegal dumping, not sometimes, all the time. And it's a criminal act committed by people who have many times been paid to take their goods or their refuse to the proper places on Albanasta Avenue and the like. But I see sanitation crews working on Saturdays, and I see them working during the week. And when I drive by and I call in too often, a dump, eventually it's taken care of. So appreciate that work. Of course, the long-term goal to make the city better is to catch some of these people. And I know the police department has been watching, and I want to tell those who illegally dump in the city that in a way, your days are going to be numbered in terms of us having oversight and more eyes on the streets. The community is watching too. And the police department will have something to announce in the next week about an arrest warrant. But the bottom line is that our city deserves and our neighborhoods deserve to be clean without any exception. So members, may I entertain a motion to approve the motion for curbside recycling cart contract, the extension? It's been properly moved by Councilmember Jeruso. May I entertain a second? And seconded by Councilmember Freddie King. Please vote your machines. 4 yeas, no nays, and that curbside recycling cart contract amendment is being submitted. I'd like to, for the record, add my name as a co-author of this particular motion. On the second issue of roll-off truck service and operator contract, that amendment extension, may I entertain a motion to approve that motion? All right, we're waiting on the item. The previous motion passed. Members, it's moved by Councilmember Harris, seconded by Councilmember Jeruso. Please vote your machines. 4 yeas, no nays, and the roll-off truck service and operator contract amendment is approved. Thank you very much for your presentation and for the work of sanitation.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Okay, at this time, a representative of the administration, if that representative is here, we'll discuss the high-intensity drug trafficking area program funding. Oh. Sorry, folks. I missed a public comment, so have a seat. We're still gonna have that presentation. Mr. Ben Bagwell. Sorry about that.
Hey there. I just wanted to get some more info real quick because it was kind of vague and the universe decided for me to randomly look on the internet at council meetings, and the agenda item happened to do with something I'm extremely passionate about, which happens to be recycling. So if I walked in really late and I just want some more info on what we're spending or what we're doing for potentially. I just need more info on these recycling carts, because when you drive by the transfer station, there are thousands of these recycling carts stacked up. I think there's people who, so just fill you all in. You haven't seen me in a while. I've been quiet, I've been busy doing the work. I've been at the farmer's market in City Park, in your neighborhood, meeting tons of your residents, meeting people from uptown, meeting people who come from New Orleans East, who come from Gentilly. We have a free recycling program, a free community recycling drop-off. People there are expressing their concerns on, they're waiting for bins, they want bins. The bins are sitting at Elysian Fields. And confused and just want more information for the public on what you're all voting for and allocating funds for potentially a large contract that could have better effects locally on people doing the work as opposed to a backlog that's already there. Like, how can we help make this recycling system better?
Okay, thank you, and regrets that I didn't have your card at the time. That's the only reason. Mr. Torrey, if you'd like to address Mr. Bagwell's concerns.
Sure, so absolutely.
Okay.
So to answer the question just on cost, so the current cost of curbside recycling carts that we pay is $45.73 per cart. That's actually down from $47.04 from last year. Those contracts have an annual cost adjustment, which is based on the resin, which is injected into the mold that actually makes the cart. So we saw a reduction based on that index last year. We have no backlog as far as delivering recycling carts for 311. We're currently delivering carts that were requested the week of August 23rd. The carts that were referenced on Elysian Fields, the city has been very fortunate to have a grant from the recycling partnership for this year, which afforded us additional carts from that grant. So the recycling partnership has bought thousands of carts for the city. Those carts are stored at our site at Elysian Fields in inventory there, but that's why you see an accumulation of carts there, because those carts were provided to us free of cost from a grant through the recycling partnership, and we'll continue to use those to fulfill new repair and replacement cart requests over the next year. But we are current on cart deliveries. If anyone cares to look at 311 data, we're working on cart requests from August, and I'm extremely proud, of our team's ability to deliver those carts timely. We did have a backlog, certainly, for a period of time coming out of Hurricane Ida, as we did with many of our service queues, but I can happily say we're current as far as delivering recycling carts, and people are promptly receiving them.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Torrey. Thank you for your question, Mr. Bagwell. At this time, we'll move on to the high-intensity drug trafficking area program, a description and a description of the request being made.
Good morning, council members. My name is Mike
Put it a little bit
Glasser.
closer to yourself.
My name is Mike Glasser. I'm a captain with the New Orleans Police Department and a commanding officer of the Special Investigation Division, under which the DEA HIDA group falls. With me, I have Detective Sergeant Manuel Castellon. He is the supervising officer for the HIDA group and a commissioned DEA officer. And I have him here in the event you have any specific operational questions that may be better suited for him to answer. The HIDA group, HIDA is an anagram for the high intensity drug trafficking area portion of DEA. It incorporates several states within the Gulf South region, and their primary mission is to disrupt and conduct investigations using resources and methods unavailable to the NOPD alone through the federal government to interdict dangerous drugs in copious amounts of dangerous drugs coming into the city from a variety of sources. All cases made by HIDA are investigated and documented for suitable prosecution on a federal level. The idea is not only to identify the dealers, but the individuals who are supplying those dealers from outside, going all the way back many times to the actual cartels from foreign nations. Our task force officers are commissioned by the Drug Enforcement Administration. They're trained in the same as the agents in DEA to initiate and investigate federal investigations. They have the ability to adopt cases, state cases and or federal cases that they make, and transfer it to federal court if need be, if it meets the federal criteria. Through the asset forfeiture program, the financial assets that are seized during the course of an investigation are remuted back to the city of New Orleans. And for an idea of how much that is, from January 21 until now, the city has received $394,478.55. And we are anticipating in the next few weeks, during September, an additional $354,570.10. So we're looking at quite a bit of income. What makes the HIDA group unique and important is that, number one, they are not only doing this job, but they're the only unit in the New Orleans Police Department whose sole and primary function is the interdiction of dangerous drugs. And by dangerous drugs, I mean fentanyl, methamphetamine, heroin, and the opioid derivatives that are causing all of our overdose deaths in the city. Secondly, they are income generated. They're the only unit that actually pays for itself and generates income for the city, as I pointed out. A little under $400,000 last year. We'll have $350,000 this year. So they actually not only pay for themselves, but they give the city back revenue that's desperately needed. I think I provided some information that you may have in front of you. There's a small chart that indicates the kinds of seizures that we have and the percentages that we get on it. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Could you talk about the fact that this is a memorandum of understanding where we're actually working with an area sheriff's department? Because I think that the
That's correct.
narrative is that nobody communicates with another agency. So
Yes, Jefferson Parish is the primary unit only because the,
pull it a little
I'm sorry.
closer. Okay.
Jefferson Parish is the primary unit only because the offices for DEA are located in Jefferson Parish and they have fronted the money up front for the office and the supplies, which we, by the way, get back from DEA, but we have to set that up front. But that's why we go through JPSO and that's why we have that memorandum of understanding.
Council members, are there any questions or comments? Well, I think the presentation spoke for itself, and this agreement basically authorizes, what we decide today authorizes the council president to sign that memorandum of understanding. So it's pretty straightforward, you know.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate the presentation. Would you like to add anything to what was said?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. So, council members, may I entertain a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding execution by our council president? It's been moved by Councilmember Harris and seconded by Councilmember King. Members, please vote your machines. And I'd like to, for the record, be added to this particular motion. The vote is 4-0 in favor of executing this particular document. Thank you very much for your presentation, and I appreciate the fact that you know, there's money being made available. We've got to fight this fentanyl epidemic, you know, with whatever resources are available to us. It's terrible.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chair, will these items be added to the consent agenda?
Yes.
Thank
Thank you. With unanimous approval of both, they will both be added to the consent agenda. Thank you, Councilman DeRusso. At this time, we'll move to the next item on our agenda, which is a presentation. Welcome back, Sewage and Water Board, to discuss the second quarter report and second quarter construction report.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going first. Hey. No, it's okay. I'll work tonight. Okay.
Thank you all for joining us this morning. Who would like to start and introduce yourselves? Maybe Mr. Spooner, if you start with an introduction for the public of who's at the table.
Yes, thanks, Councilmember Green. Name's Ron Spooner, the General Superintendent.
Steve Nelson, Deputy General Superintendent of Engineering and Services.
Ed Sutherland, Chief Art Executive.
Hey, good morning. Gray Lewis, Chief Financial Officer.
And Renee Gonzalez, Chief Customer Service Officer.
Thank you.
So I'm going to go ahead and start. So
Okay.
good morning, everyone. Pleasure to be here. We just were here a couple of days ago, and I will start with customer service updates and want to make sure that we go into the order of the requirements. So I will go first, and then we actually set an order. So I'll be passing it off to each one of my colleagues. So we're gonna go ahead and start and provide an update on the billing and meter reading strategy. On the left, we have the results for Q2 2023 in regards to our meter reading strategy. We ended the quarter at 96%. I shared already with council a couple of days ago that we ended at 95.7 or 95.8, I believe, and it rounded up to 96. And also to share that we might see not a significant decrease in this number, but a slight dip for Q3 as a result of the heat advisories and the weather.
during summer. On the right side, we have an image of the door hanger that we already started to implement. Our staff are out there leaving door hangers when they get actual reads. And this is to meet with the council ordinance that was implemented just recently. In the, sorry.
You might as well explain to the public right now so that it's addressed right now. Why might the numbers go down due to the heat advisory? That's the percentage of meters read. I'd just like the public to know. It'll make everybody comfortable when they see that different number.
Yeah, absolutely. So as a result of staffing challenges that we had in the past in the meter reading department, we switched over to a alternate meter reading strategy, which means that we try to capture actual reads in most of the meters every other month. And every other month they are estimated. So it provides for a better estimation in the formula because we also changed the formula for the bill estimation by recommendation of the council. So the primary reasons why we might see a slight dip for the last few weeks, which will impact Q3 numbers, is because we had 23 record highs this summer, over 1,100-degree days at the airport. So that is just a big strain on our staff. So that's the primary reason.
Right. So basically the sewage and water board doesn't send them out in the midst of the heat to do the reading. That's fine.
Yeah.
I just want
So we send them out.
well, it's a sensitivity issue, so you're sensitive to the needs of
It's
your
Yeah, safety is our
meter
priority.
readers. I know that term has been, but the professionals who go out and do the
Absolutely.
reading of those meters. So
Yeah.
it's important to understand that there's a lot of sensitivity in government relative to the condition under which people work.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So in regards to bill disputes, on the left, we have the bill disputes quarterly trend in regards to disputes initiated and disputes completed. We anticipated that as a result of the new meter reading strategy that was implemented at the end of the year, as a result of bills or accounts truing up, there would be a spike in bill disputes. So what we've centered our efforts on mitigating that piece of the process and making sure that we do everything we can with what we have to basically contain that number. And staff have done a really good job in doing so. The time to resolution for the quarter continues to decrease, which is good news. You can see Q3 2022 versus Q2 2023. There's a reduction of 125 days down to 79 days. Our goal is to be at 60 days or below.
Good.
And happy to provide an update on the smart meter project. As most of you are aware, we have faced numerous challenges to obtain consistent actual meter reads, which have been primary obstacle in our efforts to enhance customer trust and confidence. So switching to smart meters will eliminate monthly manual meter reads and provide timely water usage data, regardless of staffing challenges, weather events, and weather-related conditions and power outages. Threshold alerts will empower customers to have greater control over their consumption and spending, which is especially important during these challenging economic times. And customers should enjoy greater protection of their property from damage, easier and less expensive payment options, and a greater understanding and appreciation of the efforts and costs required to provide safe and reliable water services. So we are in the integrations between the smart meter technology and our IT systems are currently underway. The testing is in progress. We've installed over 1,000 meters just as part of O&M. So every meter that requires a change out is replaced with a smart meter or an AMI ready meter. And this includes 16 large meters. We continue with our communications plan. I shared a couple of days ago that we've already started sending out postcards for installations that will be completed in mid-September. So we're excited about that too. And those installations are 1.5 and 2-inch meters. and we'll begin installing small residential meters in November of 2023, so in a couple of months. And we secured a 5 million, there's a 5 million application for state revolving funds, and that has been accepted.
Thank you.
And now Gray, our CFO, will talk about accounts receivable and other topics.
Thanks, Renee. Just to provide the committee an update, at the end of the Q2, the total past due receivables were at 49.7 million, down approximately 10 million. So we see the trend over the past 6 quarters has been favorable, with which we'd expect with the normal collection practices, just the consistency of the operations. This continues to be a primary focus area for the finance and billing teams. This quarter in June, we added a controller to the team and asked her to work directly with myself, Renee, on these all the processes in the meter to cash cycle. Lots of room for opportunity to improve. So we continue to focus on a daily basis. The total receivables we see on the next slide, you see.
Yeah. Councilmember Jeruso has a question.
Yeah, I'm glad to see the receivables going down. I guess the question though is why? So is the $21 million reduction 100% based on collection success?
Combination of collections and the annual write-off on closed accounts. So both.
What's the how do you this is just so you know, this has been something that has been a point of frustration for me for a long time, because if you map out sort of, and as we have what's happened with Sewage and Water Board in 2019, the AR was 26.9 million and reached its, pardon the pun, high water mark in 2022 of like 133, and now it's declining. So we're watching this very closely. What percentage is based on bad debt and write-off of this accounts receivable reduction?
Yeah, the collection ratio is improved dramatically since the post-pandemic, after the series of moratoriums on shutoffs, when it was 12 to 15% on a monthly. We look at the trailing 12 months, so now it's run about 3%. So we're getting significant improvement. That being said, there's more room for improvement. There's continues to be customers that are still behind, that have arrearages that are carrying, and they're continuing to pay on current bills but haven't caught up on old bills. So it's still a challenge to attack the backlog there.
I mean, I understand all the issues. My question is, we have $21 million in accounts receivable reduction. First question, how much of that is attributable to debt being written off by the organization?
I don't have the breakout of the numbers, but happy to get that to try and bifurcate that into separate numbers.
I mean, I ask this because we ask it all the time, and I am concerned that the bills are bad and that they're going out to customers bad. And then it takes a long time to resolve the bills. And then Sewage and Water Board carries $136 million AR, $120 million, $105 million AR. And we're telling the public you need more money, and there's $100 million sitting on the books. So hang on. So to try and help, and not just say this is the problem of Sewage and Water Board, this is a collective problem, because if people are cheating, people aren't paying their bills correctly, people are putting something in LLC1 and dissolving LLC1, and that debt goes away, then it helps us to know what is bad debt. That is candidly, Sewage and Water Board has either said it is uncollectible or we made a mistake, versus you're a cheater and we're going to go after you and you deserve to be brought to make sure that we're paying what's correct. So it's really hard to help on the financial side for our perspective unless we know what that breakout looks like.
Yeah, understood. And it's important to highlight the categories of receivables. There's really 4 categories. Just in your regular open customers, you have just current receivables, 0 to 60. You have past due that we talk about, and then you have accounts that are under an investigation. It's that's approximately 30 million. If that if that number ends up being incorrect or there should be a credit, then that would be applied to the customer's account. But if in fact it's not, then that's still a valid receivable.
Right.
And then the fourth category is closed accounts.
Right. To be fair, 0 to 60 to me feels like it's in collections. And this is just my position. I'm not really worried about that because it could just be in process. But if you really look at your next slide, most of your debt lives at over 120 days, $90 million in that bucket. And I just think, again, I just want to be, I want to be a realist about where we stand. And if the problem is, again, if people are cheating and they're not paying what they ought to pay and your bill is $100 and you're getting 20, then that's a problem. And we want to work with you to help that problem. If the problem is the bill went out and it's $3,000 and you're only supposed to be paying 100 and the 2,900 is sitting on your AR, then that's a sewage and water board problem. And I'm just trying to differentiate between the two.
Yeah, understood. And that's the point of putting a category of receivable under an investigation. If it's needs to be adjusted, then that's not what we would consider a valid receivable.
I guess to help us to understand, because again, there's talk about stormwater management fee. There's been discussion of rate increases. With a receivable that's so large, it makes it really hard to go talk to the public about what's going on, number one. And number two, to be able to say, look, Sewage and Water Board has looked at their numbers and they're willing to say this amount, and I'm going to pick an arbitrary number that could be wrong. 40% is just bad debt. It's either uncollected, we overbilled, whatever the situation may be, versus this is what customers owe.
Yeah, understood. And that's why we lead with the 49 million numbers. That's what we tend to focus on first and foremost in terms of collections. But we'll take a look and follow up with an email, additional information.
I guess I would just say to please have that information at every quarterly meeting. I mean, I've asked this question for 5 years. I mean, I'm completely being consistent by wanting to know this. And my concern is we cannot help Sewage and Water Board restore credibility unless we know what the story is. And we have to be able to explain it. It may be not a good story, maybe not a bad story, it may be a good story. I can't tell it though without knowing what the details of it are.
Understood.
Thank you.
On the next slide, we just want to show relative to percentage water bill. This is a graph showing through the 6 months, 35% of total water produced is billed. And this is a category that's been working with Steve Nelson here on operationally and looking back at the recommendations were provided in a water loss audit provided from a contractor 2019. And those recommendations included, the need to focus on the data, reliable data that can be produced to measure for this metric. It is an important part of our strategic plan. It's something we're focusing on, but we believe that the steps being taken operationally, whether through the smart meter integration or replacement of transmission mains, will improve those data that's needed to analyze this metric and continue to improve. So more to come on that topic. So that's what I had. Pass it over to Ed.
Well, I am the Chief Audit Executive for the Sewage and Water Board. I am the first CAE in utilities history. The reason why that is this is a special position. This is the first one that has a dotted line reporting relationship only to the executive director. My primary responsibility reporting relationship is to the audit committee. And I just wanted to give an update on where we're progressing with the internal audit department. When I was brought on, we had 4 positions that were budgeted. One was an audit supervisor. The second was an audit senior staffer. And the other 2 were staff positions. We were able to luckily fill that senior role first from our accounting department, someone who transferred over from the general ledger team. Second, I was able to lure a pretty good auditor from the LLA. So she is our audit supervisor. So we're currently at half staff. we're looking to hire 2 staffers at the staffing level. We've had some challenges there at the staffing level, trying to find some individuals specifically with the domicile requirements. So I've been cold calling and cold emailing universities, trying to find new graduates to see if they can help fill those roles. Just FYI.
What's the approximate salary for an audit staff member?
Those 2 staff,
Yes,
I believe it's arranged. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I believe the range is from $45,000 to $48,000 a year.
I'm just stating it on the record so that people can contact the Sewage and Water Board and apply for these audit positions.
Absolutely.
4 universities in my district, and yes, they're kind of underutilized in terms of using their talents to fill some of our local positions. That's all. Okay,
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
I have a quick question. You said, residency requirements?
Yes, sir.
Domicile requirements. So there's domicile requirements to work for Sewage and Water Board?
Yes, sir. For all of civil service.
Awesome. Okay, no disregard.
To
Okay.
live in the parish. As far as our annual comprehensive financial report, it was submitted on time to the LLA. We're just pending their posting of it. I believe around 3rd or 4th week of June. It was due by the end of that month. The next audit committee meeting, we're gonna formally adopt our charters. We have an audit committee charter as well as an internal audit charter. That next audit committee meeting is 2 weeks from yesterday. That's September the 12th. As far as the audits that we have coming forward, the first one that we did was for overtime. That focuses on the recordation of overtime hours, management's oversight of overtime, and the judicious use of overtime by the utility. That's utility wide. And our second audit will be of billing and collections. Field work just began on that. Our team is carrying that out now. That will focus on the timeliness of billing, the use of actual reads versus estimated reads, things like that. And of course, chasing AR as well. Okay, that's all I have.
That's it. Awesome. Thank you all very much. Dave Callahan had the first slide here regarding safety metrics.
Hey, good morning, council members. I was the one left standing without a chair, so if you don't mind, I'll just do it from here. I'm going to talk very briefly about safety performance metrics. That's one of the things we're measuring, but it's also want to talk about our safety program. Obviously, safety for an operational utility is not only important to protect our employees, but it's important to make sure that we can accomplish the mission and serve our public. So this is something we monitor very closely. It's our objective to have a data-driven safety management system. And what we really want to do is strive for prevention and not response when it comes to safety issues. You can see we measure on a monthly basis. We have a very detailed monthly safety report that's available to all of our employees and our board of directors, and actually can be released to anybody that we put out. It has a lot more measurement than what you see on this slide. But what we want to do is we want to make sure that we are looking for trends and actually getting ahead of some of the safety issues that we run into. So those monthly safety reports are very closely monitored, and a lot of our actions are based on the data from those reports. We're trying to raise the safety knowledge of our organization. One of the things we're doing, which is not mandatory, but we're doing it, is to require all of our employees, every employee, to be OSHA 10 certified, meaning they will go through the OSHA 10-hour training. It's our belief that raising the baseline level of safety knowledge for the organization is going to make us better and safer. So that's an effort you see on the right side of the slide that we're doing on a monthly basis, making good progress with that. One of the only other comments I wanted to make regards to safety is, and you may hear this from Steve and Ron and others, but as you know, we've got a heat emergency going on right now, and our crews are tremendously challenged by those heat indexes that are above 100 degrees. One of the things I'm proud to report is that with all the effort that's going on from the safety department, all the effort that's going on by our supervisors out in the field, we've only had, since this heat emergency begun, one heat injury, one reportable heat injury. And that person had heat exhaustion, was able to recover and back to work the next day. And again, I think that's based on the kind of work this organization does. It's a contribute to the effort that our supervisors are doing with our employees to make sure to protect them and make sure that they're well taken care of in the field. And we need to continue to do that. Obviously, this emergency is not over. So, and subject to your questions on safety, that's all I have.
Excellent.
I saw that there were a couple of, I guess, workers who are on the job sites and they were sitting in the back and they left. So I just want to say I'm glad that the Sewage and Water Board is looking out for their safety. But I also just want you to take an opportunity to tell them how much we appreciate the fact that they're out there working in 100-degree weather. And because of the situation, sometimes you can't cover it because you've got a backhoe digger next door. And they don't get a lot of attention. But at the end of the day, people don't know how many breaks there are. My district spreads throughout the middle of the city. I see breaks all the time. But the bottom line is that somebody's getting those breaks done and those repairs done, those leaks done. Especially, for example, just recently on St. Rock Avenue, a couple of them were done near Drew Street. So just tell them we recognize that that work is being done in the day because it has to be done. And we appreciate the fact that they're withstanding this heat to get things done. And that the Sewage and Water Board is making sure that there are tents and water available to them.
Thank you, Councilmember Green. And one other thing to point out is it's not just the folks you see out there doing excavations and some of the real digging work and that kind of stuff. It's our meter readers too. I mean, they're walking miles in these temperatures. And so they're, the chief of customer service and his supervisors are looking at and watching them very closely also. So it's a lot of folks.
You all ought to do an activity that recognizes them.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll bring them here before the council one day. It's an unsung job, but if it weren't, our situation would be a lot worse in our city. Maybe I'll think about how we work with you all to recognize them. Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Green, Steve Nelson, I'm continuing with the discussion about some of our performance metrics, and I couldn't agree more. I think you hit the nail on the head Monday and again today. The network's field crews are completing 300 to 500 work orders a week in 100+ degree weather. All of the improvements that we've seen over this last quarter, it's really directly a result of those men and women who are working in some very, very challenging conditions. And I can't give them enough recognition. They should be very proud of themselves. And I'm very proud to be a part of their team. Internally, this next slide reflects some of, this is not all of our work order types, but it's our most frequent flyers. And you can see with the exception of one line item here, we've made some significant improvements in terms of response times. We're really focusing on water hydrant repairs. We've made some big strides in sewer main repairs. And then also in terms of sewer responses, if we have a manhole overflow or a backup at a house connection, we're on site within 4 hours, same day response. And we want to work to maintain that. I'm going to talk at length about paving here in a minute, because that has been a key focus for us internally as well as externally. The next slide looks at performance metrics for our on-call contractors. And you can see some significant improvements there. Myself, Gassan, and our networks project managers have been working with our contractors to ensure that we're getting optimum production out of our contracting partners, and they have really responded this year. We see some significant reductions in response times in terms of sewer main paving or sewer main repairs, also paving, 57% reduction in the response timeline there, and they continue to do a good job with water hydrant and water main leak repairs. Our coordination with, are there any questions?
Yeah, I have more of a statement and then maybe a baby question. Statement is, I just want to say that there has been, at least from our perspective, a noticeable change in response on infrastructure, which I appreciate. It's not perfect, but nothing is. And so we don't expect perfection. But I'm generally getting a response. B, it generally says this is how much time you can expect it to take. And then C, if you are over the average, we get a response of, well, this is a very high priority and we're hoping to fix it in short order. My hope is all utilities can maybe take a little bit of a lesson from a communication strategy like that, because either blaming the resident or not providing information other than I understand is not helpful. And so the substance you're able to provide has been. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I greatly appreciate that. We're going to talk about our maintenance escalations team here in a minute. And that's exactly the intent and the feedback that we hope to get from our customers.
But speaking to things that have lasted a minute, my Perrier and Webster has been 3 years, and I think the funding is in place now. So I just, While I have you there, Steve, do you have a rough back of the envelope of when that work may begin?
Yeah, I believe that bid package, if it's not on the street right now, it will be within the next couple of weeks. Thank you all very much for helping with the funding on that. We should be getting the permanent repairs under construction on that, certainly if not this quarter, then next, because I know our customers there have been waiting for a very long time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Along the lines of coordination and discussion, one of the metrics that we're tracking and working on is coordination with DPW. And I believe that's been a really strong area of success for us. Part of it has been that maintenance escalations team. I know that email address, the tracking tool, and the interactions we have with every member of the city council, as well as all of your staff, has been really helpful. That also applies to DPW. And there's kind of two main goals there. The first being proactive communication with our customers, through whom which you all are in large part a direct point of contact. And then secondly, we want to be able to provide greater transparency and improve delivery of our repairs. We've got 5 kind of key outcomes that we've got going on with this program right now. And I do want to stress it's only a couple of months old. It's a handful of months, so it's not perfect. We're always open to suggestions and improvements. And this is something where we're continuing to build the team and continuing to move forward. The first thing we've done is establish that team. The second thing is establish a tracking mechanism. This is a tool whereby if we notice that a particular repair or an issue is past its average or expected timeline, we add that with a point of particular emphasis for proactive follow-up. We have monthly group meetings with all of the council staff. We also meet monthly with DPW to discuss our work orders that we have going on. And then every single week we transmit to the council staff, some of our board members, IAB, and Department of Public Works, every open work order that we have, as well as every work order that's been completed. So we're hoping, and I'm seeing that is also helpful for your staff to be able to not have to wait for a response from myself or someone in my office, but to be able to look at that spreadsheet immediately when a customer calls and say, yes, you have a work order at your location, or no, we need to call that in, or Steve, what's going on with this, and be able to escalate that. While point 5 is an effective reduction in delivery timelines, the maintenance escalation tool really is, the intent is for that to be a communication tool outward so that we can provide that information for our customers so they can have a level of confidence that we hear you, we have your problem, here's the timeline, here are dates that you should expect follow-up, etc. But it does help us to be able to recognize those areas where we need to put more emphasis on in terms of assigning resources so we can address those issues sooner. One of those, if we switch to the next slide, is related to paving repairs. And this year, Ghassan and the leadership team has really put an emphasis on paving repairs. And we're not there yet, but we're getting there, and I can see the light right now. We've had a reduction from 100 days to 80 days on average from making a cut to filling it, which is 20% faster. And the goal is for us to get not to 80 days or 60, but down to 2 to 4 weeks. I think that's a reasonable timeline. I think that's something that should be considered industry standard, and it's something that I believe is achievable. To kind of illustrate the backstop for how we're doing this, how we're achieving this, there's been a major shift, or not shift in resources, but we've had some big help from our partners at DPW under the Max Pay program. They've done a fantastic job of helping us out with over $8 million in funds. IAB has also really helped us out this year with an additional $4 million to help our contractors be able to increase their production. And also we've got 2 new crews out in the field, as well as additional asphalt and concrete equipment. And so there's kind of two main issues that I've got to address with paving repairs. When we started the year, we had about 3,000 open work orders. We need to get that down to around 1,000 by year's end. And then we need to eat the rest of that elephant in 2024. And equally important to that is being able to keep up with the number of cuts that we make. So by leveraging the resources that our partners at DPW are providing and our contractors knocking down that backlog, our internal paving contractors, I'm really pleased to report that over the last 4 to 5 weeks, we've been able to do 60, 70, 80, 90 work orders a week in terms of paving. So we're keeping up with the cuts that we're making right now. So we need to see that backlog decrease and get those holes in the street fixed sooner. Talking a little bit about our FEMA projects, because those are kind of bigger picture issues. We have 11 transmission main projects right now, ongoing and or completed or coming up. The most visible of those, which you see the photo of the big pipe on the right there, is the 48-inch transmission main replacement and lining on Claiborne going on right now. That project, the final paving won't be done until February, but the tie-in on the pipe, we should have a bypass tied in early next week. I was hoping for this week. We've got to finish the pressure and the back T testing, but that should have a major effect on improving pressures in Uptown, as well as for a number of our business customers as well. We're also involved, of course, as everyone knows, in the Joint Infrastructure Recovery Program. And we're just about halfway through the projects on that program with 110 remaining, 71 complete, 38 in construction, and 8 in bid and award. With that, I will turn it back over to Dave Callahan to discuss. But there are questions.
Councilmember Harris.
Yeah. Steve, I asked you on Monday about Palmyra, where the pedestrian bridge is sitting over some repairs. Can you give us the latest status update on that?
Yes, thank you. I drove by that site after the meeting. The pedestrian bridge is down. I saw that taken down. There were some barricades out. I got with the contractor and the program manager. They're going to move some of those barricades because they need to do the pavement restoration. So they're going to consolidate those, get them out of people's driveways and such, and make sure that gets cleaned up. We should have those pavement restorations here within the month to 6 weeks. But
Okay.
as far as the barricades, the head bridge, that's all gone.
All right, so 4 to 6 weeks, final repair.
For the paving, I'll confirm that.
Okay, thank you. And then Gravier.
Yes, I drove by that site as well and got with our zone manager on that. There's a long-standing leak there. We're working on that
Okay,
actively.
okay, great. Thank
Any
you.
other specific questions, comments, or concerns?
No, thank you,
Thank
Steve.
you.
Hello again, council members. I want to talk very briefly about technology modernization, information systems. Now, while you've already heard about a couple of major technology modernization projects like the smart meter project and the West Power Complex, those are by and large our biggest projects we've got going on. We do have a lot of other things working right now. More specifically within the information systems world, we're in the middle of upgrading our financial management system. I'm happy to report that we've gotten through the RFP and selected the software as Oracle Financials. We are in contract negotiation with them right now, but we will be entering the implementation phase very soon. That's a very long project. Implementation will be taking place for the next couple of years, but it represents a huge leap for us and a long needed change and for the Sewage and Water Board. There are other major system implementation and upgrade projects that are looming out there in the future, and some of the next committee meetings we'll have over the next few quarters, we'll be talking to you about that. But next one up will likely be, you'll likely see movement on our asset management system, and we'll be going into the needs assessment RFP phase on that one soon. Others to come. We are in the middle of our Variant customer service enhancement software implementation right now. A couple more months and we'll be done, we hope, with that. Renee Gonzalez, Chief of Customer Services, is leading the charge on that implementation right now. That's a enhancement software for the existing CSM system we have. It's essentially sometimes described as scripting software, which would help the customer service representatives work with the customer and pass information in a better way. And then it just does one of those industry standards we need to have. Want to briefly touch on cybersecurity. You're only as good as your last successful day of cybersecurity, and we truly believe that at the Sewage and Water Board. And we have constant efforts going on to harden our system. The bad guys don't sleep. We know that. So we really go at cybersecurity with 3 lines of effort. One's hardware, one's software, and another one is human factors. And I think anybody who's involved with cybersecurity knows that human factors is the biggest risk. So we have efforts going on in all 3 of those areas. One example is that for hardware, we're hardening our firewalls and upgrading our firewalls across the Sewage and Water Board. We do have a very robust human factors effort going on. A lot of testing happening, testing emails with our workforce. We measure all that. We're happy to say with the system we use, we are definitely above industry standard when it comes to cybersecurity and our human factors. So we're going to keep working at that. Again, we're only as good as our last big success. The overall IT strategic effort, wanted to talk a little bit about the fact that we obviously are We are committed to moving to cloud-based across the organization. That's where we need to be. That's where the most resilient organizations are when you have everything cloud-based, and we're going to be getting there. It's going to take some time as we implement some of these new systems. One example of a cloud-based feature is we're developing a web page right now and hopefully have that out there soon that will allow better customer contact during emergencies. We want to be able to continue to communicate with our customers when the worst happens, where we have lost systems and things. So those are some of the efforts that we're making in technology modernization, and subject to your questions, that's all I have on this slide.
Thank you for your presentation. Appreciate that. Mr. Nelson, you asked about a specific. Can you make a little note? Car not at Turo Street, just close the street. There's a big hole in the middle of it. It's too narrow an area to pass on the east and left side of it. I don't want somebody this weekend to fall into a very deep hole. Car not at Turo. That's just a specific one, but I'm just telling you, I'm okay with shutting down the street. Okay. All right.
All right, Councilmember.
Hurricane is
We'll move on to the next section. Redundancy and service improvements. Again, I'm Ron Spooner, General Superintendent. First, we're going to the hurricane and storm preparedness. We'd like to, as I mentioned Monday, is just a reminder for the Republic and the citizens and our customers. This is the time to review your hurricane preparedness plan as well as your evacuation plan. As we're entering peak hurricane season, and as we've seen from this last weekend, and the hurricane Idalia, if I'm saying that name right, that's impacting Florida. The hurricane go from what's potential to be a tropical storm with rapid intensification, literally go to category 4 in a matter of 3 to 4 days. And so again, asking the customers, review your hurricane preparedness plan, the evacuation plan, and I will put this up with the Sewage and Water Board 2022, the annual update and the consumer confidence on water quality report on page 10 of this document. There's actually a checklist, a hurricane checklist. So we ask, if you don't know, pull this out, take it off your counter, take a look at it. It is a very good hurricane checklist. And we just want all of our customers to be prepared for hurricane season as we enter the peak hurricane season. Relative to Sewage and Water Board hurricane and storm preparedness, we have 93 of our 99 major pumps are available. And there are 2 additional major pumps will go online in mid-September. That's iPump at DPS 6, and we have number 2 pump at DPS 16, which is St. Charles Station. So we are slowly getting our major pumps back online. Relative to our generating of our own power, all of our turbines are currently available for use. T4 is our steam turbine, T5 and T6 are our combustion turbines. So they are available for use. In addition to that, we have 4 of our 5 EMDs, electromotor devices, and 4 of the 6 frequency converters. It was 5. Monday, one of our smaller frequency converters, the auxiliary equipment, 2.5 megs. We had an issue with that transformer, so that is offline. So we're 4 of 6. I will say, of the frequency converters, we still have 20 megs of power available. Again, we utilize all of these sources, our internal sources, frequency converters, as well as the utility power via frequency converters in order to maintain hurricane preparedness and storm readiness. And again, we've participated in several tabletops with City Hall, our partners at City Hall, NOLA Ready, and as well as Entergy. Going into the power complex.
Hey,
Yes.
Ron, just like, I think we're all watching Idalia right now
Yes,
and
sir.
seeing what's going on. Are we now in a position with Energy that they prioritize each of the frequency changers, the load, the feeders that need? I just absolutely want to make sure that 0 is lost in translation, knowing that we could be very similarly staring this.
I would say yes. Entergy, with our partners at Entergy, they've actually hardened the grid of certain distribution lines adjacent to our frequency converters, as well as the Carrollton Water Plant, even electrical reclose, automatic reclose switches. They've actually implemented those 1.5 to 2 years ago. So we're actually working in conjunction with Entergy to make sure, specifically the hardened plant and our critical facilities, that we have that constant source of power if it's available at that time.
Okay, and you have 4, 5, and 6 on here. I realize I'm kind of segueing to the power complex, but
Yes.
I'd still consider 7 to be part of the turbine family as opposed to the substation per se. Is 7 still expected to be online in 2024?
No, 7 will come online with the phase 1. And we can go to the next slide with the power complex. 7 will come online with the phase 1 of the sewage and water board power complex. So speak a little bit on a sewage and water board power complex. Again, that complex is really 2 components of that power complex. The one is the Entergy substation, in which we will accept power from Entergy directly off of the transmission grid, which is much better than getting the power off of the distribution system. So the Entergy substation is actually on schedule, and that work will be completed sometime in 2024. The second component of the sewage and water board power complex is the construction of our state-of-the-art backup power plant. That is currently in construction. We're actually driving piles for our utility rack, about 95% complete. And we're also installing the structural steel components associated with that. So again, I'd like to thank the city council and our local delegation at the state level for the securing that $15 million in capital outlay fund, as well as the additional $10 million in fair share, because those $2, that $25 million will assist the sewage and water board in bringing 2 static frequency converters online in that phase 1 implementation, where we're ready for the peak hurricane season. So this is yes, sir.
Just so we can manage expectations, the substation will be online in 2024, third quarter of the year.
The substation will be ready for implementation in 2024. It will not go online, energized and power until our portion comes online in mid to peak summer of 2025. And the graphic that you see right there is the implementation of our phase 1 in the summer of 2025. And the good thing on that graphic is we see the
Well, can I just say this, like, time is what time is,
yes,
but turbines 4 and 5 are how old?
turbines 4 and 5 are quite over 50 plus years old.
Yeah. I mean,
Yes, sir.
anything older than Oliver is not where we want to be in terms of obsolescence. My very strong suggestion is whatever we can do, and I realize there's engineering and other things, but by May 30, I think we really need to be, I mean, whatever we can do to push as much as possible, because I worry when I hear peak hurricane season, that suggests to me August 1st. And I just, we're just, listen, let me even take a step back. This table, this administration did not create the power problems that we have. I want to be 100% clear. You inherited. And I think Sewage and Water Board has done a commendable job when it comes to changing the power. That is something that Gassan and your team deserves credit for, because the substation will come online, T7, the mayor, and getting the fair share money. I think also, Ron, in fairness, the reason T7 is happening because the mayor and the legislative delegation getting that in addition to the other money. So I want to set the table. I just want to be really careful, because we're wringing our hands as we're here in 2023 and watching somebody else. We know that we've got 2024 coming up, but I'm really, whatever we can do to try and have as much of this ready, not before peak, but ready for hurricanes.
I would say we do agree with you, Councilman Geruso. There are some limitations that we are dealing with, and the one of it is funding and the availability of the funding in which we can put these contracts out, which is pretty much the driver of the schedule. So we are doing everything that we can to try and move that schedule from the left from peak hurricane season. But part of what we dealt with this year and this summer is the availability of funds, maximizing those funds in order that we can push the schedule to the right. So again, we are working with our consultants to see what we can do to shift some of that to the left. But based upon our current schedule and how we would implement, we would put the future contracts out with the funding availability. That's where we are at this time. But we will work as best we can with our consultants and our contractors to move the needle back to the left as much as we can.
Okay, so I know the city still needs to fund the 10 million of the fair share to Sewage and Water Board, and my expectation is that be done in the third quarter of this year. So hopefully we can check the box in a significant way and get that 10 million off the boards. The 52 million for the substation and the frequency changers is already cash in hand, both between ARPA and capital funds. And I think fund balance too. Are we waiting on any other funding from the city or from another source that needs to be pushed?
Currently, we have the adequate funds to complete our phase one implementation. That's where we are. The additional funds that are in the P5Q at the state level, based on where we are next spring, hopefully that gets to the P1Q. That will allow us to continue to move forward with our phase two implementation, which is the power plant. So again, we can say within the next 60 to 90 days, we will put another major contract out associated with the West Power Complex. And by the end of the year or the first part of Q1 of 2024, it will be a second major contract that will go out with the West Power Complex that will allow us to complete the phase one in 2025.
And again, you're the engineer, I'm not, but I just want to make sure I understand. The whole deal is the legislature essentially funded the frequency changer parts that were needed. That's the 15 that you got.
That's correct.
And the city's doing the second part, that is the 10 million. And then the third part is the part that remains unfunded, but you don't need the third part in order for the first two to be successful.
That's correct. And the contracts we're working on now to go out in the next 60 to 90 days in Q1. Those two large complexes, what we call, are the connecting contracts. So we use those auxiliary components, the cables. We're connecting our static frequency converters, our turbine 7, connecting back to our central control facility on the east part of the plant. And those are the drivers where we are right now.
All right. I may just post a sign in front of me that says,
yes, sir. I know you
May 30, 2025.
We will work toward that.
Okay.
So hopefully we can push that needle to the left.
Thank you very much. I
Thank you,
appreciate
sir.
it.
Moving on quickly on the operational reforms and capital improvements, which you all know, our largest program at the Sewage and Water Board is ASILA, Southeast Louisiana Drainage Program. That is ongoing. So as you see on the slide, Florida Avenue Phase 4, we're working on that. Just quick thing on Florida Avenue Phase 4. We finished up the first part of Phase 4, and we are working with our partners with the Corps and TIPRA to do the remaining phases of Phase 4. That's going to come sometime the end of the year or Q1 of 2024. The next slide there is with General de Gaulle. We are in the construction phase of Algiers. That's our Algiers Basin. The Algiers Basin with a total program cost of approximately $533 million. The contract, we're at 98% complete on the work on de Gaulle. And the next phase on de Gaulle, which is from Berman Highway to the Algiers Outfall Canal and a box spur on Holiday, Sandra, and Indiana. That is in advertising right now on the Corps website with the anticipated award sometime in mid-September. And the last, we're in the study phase, is with the Lakeview Orleans Basin. And we're working with the Corps on that study phase to wrap that up. Some of the other project and improvement updates, we're going to say the annual water quality. And again, I'll refer back to this brochure that was mailed out to our customers in July 1st. It has a wealth of information relative about our drinking water. As you know, EPA regulates over 90 contaminants in our drinking water. And there is a section in here relative to the testing that we've done on our drinking water. I'll also ask people, if you don't want to read the whole document, the letter from our executive director, page 1. It's a very good summation of this document. We'll ask the citizens to read this document. So this is very good document associated with our water quality and other programs. Quickly on our stakeholder engagement, we are engaging with the community. As you can see, several ribbon cutting ceremonies. Like this, our executive leadership did go to participate in the National Water Policy Fly-In Week in Washington, D.C. early this year. We continue to add, as well as the New Orleans State Delegation luncheon lobbying relative to the capital outlay program. We participated in several infrastructure open houses around the city. And we're proud to say on May 18th, we hosted the New Orleans Chamber of Commerce meeting at our complex. And with that tour of the power complex, the executive leadership, members of the executive leadership team did participate in all of the Mayor Cantrell's budget committee meetings around the city in this past July and August. And then this past Saturday, our Deputy General Superintendent attended another community meeting New Orleans East Matters Coalition this past Saturday. So moving into the last two slides, we'll do, I'll ask Dave. He will speak briefly on the hiring components, and followed by Dave, Ms. Irma Plummer, who is over our Disadvantaged Business Enterprise program. She will follow Dave and give a briefing on the DBE program.
Good morning again, council members. Just wanted to briefly touch on the hiring efforts that are going on. We, like the city and everybody else right now, are suffering from a lot of vacancies. I mean, you can see the numbers there. We're fighting that. We should have about in a normal state, we believe we should have about a 10% vacancy rate, which would mean about 150 vacancies, but you can see we're well up there. Not all of those are true vacancies. Some don't have requisitions or demand requests from the departments on hiring for them. But what I will say is that we know we have an uphill battle for hiring. We had a very successful job fair a couple of months ago. It was probably the largest one in New Orleans. And we were excited to have over 900 people, job seekers at it, and ended up getting over 200 applications. We brought 60 of those on board. There are more coming, we know. Some of them were very quick hires, and we tried to design it that way, but some are not quick hires. So we're still working on those, but it's very apparent that we need this effort. We just got to continue to push in hiring, and we're asking for everybody's help on that. All of our vacancies, the ones we're hiring for, are available for the public to see on swibno.org careers, and we're hoping that we continue to push the word out there that we have jobs and we have people, we have positions available for people who are interested, and we're gonna keep pushing on that front. Hopefully we move, by the way, this job fair, I think we've convinced ourselves that we need to do that twice a year, maybe more, but it was a big undertaking. It costs a little bit of money, but it was well worth it. And I think we're probably going to have to at least do it semi-annually, and maybe even work it be more beyond that. So that's all I have for hiring, unless you have any questions.
When you describe a job as General Superintendent Office, what do you mean? For that,
That would be
field crews, and
that would be the largest part of the organization, which is under Ron Spooner, and that's all our networks and
it's everything. So it's field crews, admin staff, engineering staff, technical staff. So as Dave indicated, it's all of our vacancies within the General Superintendent Department, and our total count of personnel vacant and filled is 950 plus employees within that group.
do we have General Superintendent representatives in the back?
I believe those are customer service folks. So those are some meter readers, if I'm not mistaken. So those.
Could you all stand for a second? I just want to thank you all for the work that you do. Many times customer service anywhere doesn't get the recognition that it deserves. I want to thank you all for the fact that you're willing to work and that you're willing to help the Sewage and Water Board and the city to move forward. And I just want to encourage you all to encourage others to join you in your profession. It makes a big difference in our city. A lot of citizens' lives are made better by the work that is done by you and by others, especially in the field. So thank you for your work. I'm glad that you're here today. I appreciate you bringing them by. Thank you very much. Let's give them a round of applause.
And one more plug, swibno.org careers.
I want to encourage our citizens to recognize that I'm getting frustrated by these numbers of vacancies, knowing how we could change our city. I just want to encourage everybody to recognize that working in government is a good profession, benefits, retirement, health benefits, and also doing a good thing for the city of New Orleans. Thank you.
Okay, and last we bring up Ms. Irma Plummer, that's over our Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program.
Good morning, committee. Our Disadvantaged Business Program has a partnership with the city in that we have a full-time equivalent person embedded in the Office of Supplier Diversity to handle and support certification of new businesses. We work very, very closely with them with certification. Compliance remains a responsibility on Sewage and Water Board contracts for our office. And to that end, we have provided the details in the Q2 report, where we had 4 contracts awarded in Q2 totaling $26 million. And of that spend, $9 million will be distributed to disadvantaged business enterprises. They represent 14 DBEs sprinkled among the 4 contracts. And you're looking to, you inquired about the local spend. Well, for purposes of this report, we used a very conservative approach and definition of the word local to mean Orleans Parish. So of those 12 different DBEs that will be working on the 4 contracts, only 1 is from out of state, 1 is local to New Orleans, but the other 10 represent companies from the greater New Orleans area, the metropolitan statistical area, with those associated 10 parishes. So we will pull from Kenner, Metairie, Des Allemands, and other cities. We will continue to be proactive and meet our goals each month. If you have questions, please.
Thank you for your.
Thank
report.
you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Plummer. And Mr. Chair, that concludes the Sewage and Water Board Q2 report, and we're standing by if there are any questions or comments.
Thank you very much. I want to thank you all for your report. And I want to remind those who are watching and the public in general is that the Sewage and Water Board comes before this committee on a quarterly basis. It's an opportunity to find out about matters that go beyond, for example, your individual bills and what is being done with the revenues to enhance our infrastructure. So I want to encourage the public to recognize that the next quarterly report at this committee will be basically in November, but to be on the lookout for it. And I want to thank the Sewage and Water Board for the time that you've given them this detailed report that is available to our citizens. Council members, do you have any comments relative to the report or questions?
I don't have any comments to the reports. Want to, as always, say thank you to the men and women at the desk, and also the ones in the back and outside in the heat, working in that 100-degree plus weather. I know you go on and recognize and I noticed, but again, we thanked you earlier. I want to thank you again. And last year, Mr. Spoon, we got a lot of calls about canal cutting. And it was a lot of calls, and we got none this year. We received none. So I want to thank you and your team. It's amazing what can be done when you get the right funding and equipment, so and people. So thank you. As always, Mr. Nelson, Ms. Birch. You may not respond with the answer we want to hear for the constituents, but it's the truth and it's a timely response. So I appreciate it.
All righty.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your report.
Councilmember, we have one online.
Oh, we have an online comment. Oh,
This is from Val Kupit. He says, please reconsider the emergency declaration burn ban for the outgoing water bill to residential customers at 85%. Please lower this to at least 40%. This would help with irrigation for plants and lawns, help reduce fire in this drought, eliminates tree removal for dead trees on public property due to the current drought.
thank you very much for that online comment. Once again, thank you for that report. And thank you for the customer service representatives who joined us today. The next item on our agenda, and technically in terms of our flow, is our last presentation by the Department of Public Works regarding traffic signals and streetlight repairs, joint infrastructure, road recovery programs, right-of-way contracts, and max paved road work programs. I'm sure Ms. Sarah Porteous and will join us, our interim director of Public Works. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Morning.
And for purposes of the public that is watching, could you and listening, could you introduce yourselves?
My name's Joseph Threat. I'm a Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for the City of New Orleans Infrastructure Group.
And Sarah Porteous. I am the Chief of Staff for Infrastructure and Operations and Acting Director for the Department of Public Works.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here. You all can go right into your report.
Good morning, Council Member, Council President, Council Vice President, Public Works Chair, District Council members. Thanks for the opportunity to provide an update on the Public Works activity under the Infrastructure Group to the council and to the residents on behalf of the administration for the City of New Orleans. I'd be remiss not to put a shout out with our prayers and thoughts for our fellow citizens in Florida. As you know, once those storms come into the Gulf, we're all in this together with the Gulf states. So, we're thinking about them in this time of need. Before I turn over the brief to my Chief of Staff and Acting Director of Public Works, Sarah McLaughlin-Porteous, I'd like to highlight a few important facts to date on the accomplishments of the Department of Public Works. Public Works is a hardworking staff, has come a long way since we took over the baton over a year and a half ago. And I came on board with the mission of continued improvement to the department. Our first priorities were to staff up our department and establish and provide an environment of high morale, accountability, and teamwork. These sets of qualities were also shared as a mission statement with our contractor community, working on critical infrastructure projects throughout the city. I do see a turnaround in our partnership between the city, the engineering community, and the contractor community. I do believe that our project momentum continues to move forward, and our progress has been evident throughout the city. With only a few more years left with this administration, my staff and I are working hard every single day to complete every project as soon as possible to leave the city in a better place. Let me speak briefly to just a few enhancements of the JIRR program. We currently awarded the PMO contract, the support contract now embedded in the department, the implementation of Procore construction software, task order-based contracts, which is a work in progress for DPW, SWEBNO, and our vendors. We have also started to award the task-based contracts that limit the amount of work a contractor can perform in a given time to prevent a stalled project work and enhance our capacity to get work done. Sarah and I will continue our weekly field visits to the construction sites and other critical locations that warrant the attention of residents and the council community. Our primary focus on those sites are always safety, good housekeeping in the neighborhoods, quality of work, speed of the City of New Orleans plan change approvals, and prompt invoice payments to the construction community. The department has also been more aggressive with the pipe bursting technology in our projects to limit obstructions and inconvenience to the residents of our neighborhoods. DPW continues our daily partnership and collaboration with the Sewer and Water Board, State Department of Transportation, DDD, Autobahn, and other city organizations to provide essential services throughout the city. As you know, we are up against a Katrina disaster period of performance, both with JIRR project program in DPW and capital projects. And we are optimistic to provide enough notices to proceed for construction with both DPW and capital projects to move the period of performance needed so we can finish our work. Our next FEMA Region 6 administrator visit is in October this year, and we'll have those discussions. Unfortunately, the city right-of-ways have been placed in a critical condition due to the lack of frequent rainfall for over a month. That rainfall usually expands our clay-based soil that supports our streets and roads. The lack of rain is evident, and the recent obvious scenes throughout the city of panel collapses of the right-of-way are most evident. We continue to work hard for the citizens of New Orleans. We have already started our strategy and workups with Sewer and Water Board to prepare for Super Bowl 2025 and Mardi Gras 2025. Thanks so much for your time. And unless you have any questions, I'd like to turn the brief over to Sarah Porteous.
Any questions at this time? Okay.
I'll try to go through this quickly. I know there are lots of questions, but I would like to begin just with an acknowledgement to all of the women and men who are city employees in the Department of Public Works, as well as the many contractors who are also supporting the Department of Public Works. I appreciate all of their support, and I certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning alongside Joe to talk to you about some of the progress that's happening within the department that's improving quality of life for our residents around the city of New Orleans. So today I was asked to talk about a few different things. I'm going to provide an update on our programs and projects division, which are the roadwork projects, an update on our right-of-way contracts, which are going on around the city, an update on our streetlight maintenance and repairs, traffic signal status, as well as the combined Department of Public Works and Sewage and Water Board Max Pave program that Steve Nelson talked about a little while ago. So I'll begin with our programs and projects, and I'm going to run through these slides fairly quickly so that we can get to some of your questions. But highlights from these slides. So this is showing substantial completion this year. And we have reached substantial completion on 20 projects this year, including projects in every council district. And some of those I'll highlight: Magazine Street Phase 2, Central City Group A, Bywater Marigny Group A, Gardena Street between St. Bernard and Paris, and Village de l'Est Group C. And then the next slide shows our 90-day look ahead for project completion. So between now and the end of the year, we're projected to reach substantial completion on another 10 projects, including Holly Grove Groups A and B, Camp Street between Louisiana and Washington, Timray Lafitte Group B, Dillard Group A and B, and Lower Ninth Ward South Groups A and E. So a lot of progress that's happening and projected. As you know, last year, and as Joe just talked about, we began implementing the task order-based contracting. Again, where an entire project is awarded to a contractor, but smaller portions are released via task orders. And we're already seeing the benefits of this methodology on many fronts. And I think a much smaller footprint that's released to the contractor means that we have more reliable schedules. We have better information that we can provide to you, and you can in turn provide to the residents. And we're really pleased with the progress we're seeing with that. We're also progressing with our implementation of Procore. All of our task order-based contracts are using this system. Our contractors and engineers are using Procore. Sewage and Water Board is also utilizing the software. And what it means, our invoices, plan change, and other approval workflows are digital. And this is exactly where we want to be. So the time waiting on packages and signatures has been dramatically compressed. So obviously, we're still working through some of these old projects that are not using Procore, and it's going to take some time to get those done. But we're really seeing some progress in the new projects that are all using Procore. We're continuing, again, and Joe kind of mentioned this, we're continuing with our improved coordination and collaboration with the construction and engineering community. We are all partners in this, so we all need each other to be successful in continuing with our infrastructure program. We're continuing to have quarterly meetings, and I think, you know, it's important that we continue to understand the issues from their perspective and that we come together to come up with solutions together programmatically. And it's finally, you know, as Joe mentioned, we've onboarded our program management support with CDM Smith. So we have 5 senior support staff that are supporting both in public works as well as in capital projects. They're going to be looking at a gap analysis. They're going to be looking at ways that we can help refine our bids to save more money, reviewing our specifications, helping us to better define our project closeout process so that we have more consistency, helping to look at our vendor evaluations for both construction contractors and engineers, and also helping with our onboarding documentation and training. So we're very pleased to have that support on board. Okay, so slide 8. So this shows our recently bid projects that we're going to be starting between now and the end of the year. Again, all task order-based projects. Important to recognize, you see all different companies here on the awardees list. So what we're seeing pretty consistently is 4 to 5 contractors that are bidding on our projects. I think this is incredibly encouraging. Obviously, this is going to help us with, you know, the bid prices coming down, and I think it's just good to see some competition. This is continuing on. Slide 9 shows our priority bidding list. So this is the next group of projects that would go out for advertisement. We're anticipating another handful this year, and then the remainder in first quarter of next year. Okay, so slide 10, this is our path forward map for the remainder of the year. It shows the 13 projects that are moving into construction. You know, so as we move forward, we're being intentional about how we advertise projects to avoid overwhelming neighborhoods, which is what's happened in the past with too many contractors and too many projects underway simultaneously. So on this map, the green represents awarded projects and the blue represents projects to be awarded remaining to be awarded in 2023. Slide 11. So this map is a status overview of the entire program, which I think is pretty exciting. The program is going to cover work on 10,528 blocks of the total of approximately 20,000 blocks that we have around the city. And so the green on this map represents completed work. So that's 3,406 blocks. The orange represents work under construction. That's 2,512 blocks. And the blue represents our planned construction, 4,610 blocks. Okay, I'm going to move into a brief discussion of our right-of-way contracts. So earlier this year, we began our district right-of-way contracts. And through these contracts, we're addressing roadway failures, drain point repairs, incidental sewer repairs, catch basin repairs, sidewalk repairs, basically repairs that are beyond the capacity of our internal maintenance crews. And we're using a combination of both bond and infrastructure maintenance funds to complete this work. So the way these contracts work, a contract's awarded, work is released to the contractor via task orders. And we develop those task orders using 311 data and then also coordinating with each of your district offices around the priorities that you all are aware of. So District E was the first of these right-of-way contracts to get underway. It was a $3.1 million contract. We were able to complete 17 locations as part of that contract. Most of those were roadway failures, which is why that money, we went through that funding pretty quickly. District A was the second right-of-way contract to get underway. To date, we have repaired 21 locations and we've got $950,000 remaining of the $2.6 million. District B, we've completed repairs at 9 locations. We've got 1.9 million remaining. District C East Bank, we've completed repairs at 9 locations. There's 2.1 remaining. District C West Bank, we have 1 repair in progress on Eaton Street, and we're in the process of finalizing estimates with our contractor to begin a major panel replacement project on General de Gaulle. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure that that's going to require a good portion of the funding that's been allocated for the West Bank contract. But we're going to stretch it as far as we can. And then finally, with District D, the notice to proceed was just issued on the 22nd of this month. So we're going to be getting that work underway in the coming weeks. And then I just included a few pictures in the presentation just to show some of the work that we have been doing. The picture on the left shows the replacement of a catch basin. The picture in the center shows a drain point repair that was done in the French Quarter. The picture on the top right shows the failure on General de Gaulle. It's going to probably require a replacement of about 10 concrete panels. So it's going to be pretty costly. And then the picture on the bottom right is a repair underway on Bundy Road, just off the I-10 service road. This was a roadway failure that happened several weeks back. So this is an interesting map. It sort of represents some of what Joe was talking about. This shows some of the observed subsidence roadway failures around the city. We believe that the heat wave and the drought conditions have contributed to roadway subsidence over the course of the summer. So we pulled the 311 data for roadway subsidence since 1 June, revealing 144 locations that were reported by citizens. We've also included an additional 25 that were noted by DPW staff. A couple of note: Franklin Avenue near the lake, Pontchartrain Boulevard in West End, North Broad near Canal, Fontainebleau near Walmsley, and General de Gaulle near Lakewood Country Club. So these are locations that we're watching very closely, and we're going to have to prioritize to address as part of the right-of-way contracts. Okay, I'll move into a brief update on streetlight maintenance and repairs. So just for the general public, so DPW maintains 54,000 streetlights in the city, including streetlights located on the interstate and on the state roads that run through the city. And it's a combination of steel and concrete poles, residential lighting poles and fixtures, and a diverse collection of historical poles and fixtures. So currently, we're tracking 2,160 outages. So our system is at 96% operational. I've shared with you the goal that I've shared with you before, that our goal is to be at 98 operational and to maintain that. So we are certainly making some progress. We just awarded or executed our $4.5 million streetlight repair and rehabilitation contract in August. The contract went to All Star Construction. They have one of the things that's a little different with this contract. It's an annual contract, but we have been given the option for 3 contract renewals. This was one thing that we heard from industry, that it was a bit challenging to have an annual maintenance contract and to order supplies that may not be used within the term of the contract. So we're very excited about that change. We're also excited that we had a smooth transition between the 2 contracts, so no break in terms of the progress. We also have our $1.9 million contract with our DBE contract monitor, that's Legacy Professional Services, that was executed in July. That's their first contract option, their first renewal option. And they are effectively managing the work, approving invoices, assigning out the task orders, handling the coordination of our nighttime assessments and all of that. So since August of last year, All Stars repaired 4,784 outages citywide. They've retrieved 237 knockdown poles, reset 636 leaning poles, installed 122 new poles, and currently we have 13 sites with major repairs in progress that impact 48 lights. As I mentioned before, nighttime neighborhood assessments continue. This was something that we added to the last contract. So relying on 311 data, of course, but also continuous nighttime assessments around the city to ensure that we're tracking all of the outages. And then in terms of interstate outages, this is obviously a major priority as we move into the new contract. I am happy to mention that just this week, All Star restored the power in both directions of I-10 between Chef Overpass and Dwyer Overpass. So in terms of our priority sequence for interstate lights, next is going to be addressing the high rise, followed by St. Bernard to Elysian Fields, Metairie Road to the train trestle, and then Bullard to I-510. And then lastly, I wanted to mention, I know we still have about half of those outages that were caused by Hurricane Ida. It's been quite some time, obviously waiting to get to those repairs, but the good news is our streetlight repair contract is in the bid and award phase with the anticipated advertisement in the next 30 days. Okay, moving on to our traffic signal status.
Sarah, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So I know you guys have been trying to process these invoices
Yeah.
as quickly as possible. I just want to make sure that given where we've sort of been talking about frequently in chambers, and that doesn't appear to be a DPW issue because everything's in brass, that making sure we're getting our vendors paid timely. Is there anything that, and again, you're not finding, I know that, so I'm not trying to put you and Joe in that spot, but I just want to make sure that the city is tending to these in short order.
Yeah, obviously, All Star is all of our vendors are important, but we need All Star very much. So I'm definitely very closely involved in this. All Star has about 1.1 million that's in brass now. Those are invoices, I think, from July and August. So payment is imminent, but I am tracking that closely. They have another few 100,000 that are older. Those are not, they haven't been submitted yet. They're with our contract monitor. They're reviewing the invoices. Sometimes there are discrepancies in invoices. Sometimes there's backup material that's needed. So, that's the delay in that. We do have some money that is owed to All Star. It's about 160,000 for traffic signal repairs, and we're working to resolve that as well. But we're on top of this. We want to make sure they get paid.
And I think Councilmember Drew, so to your question, I mean, that's one of my top priorities. And as you know, is when we go to field site visits, first thing I ask is, hey, are you getting paid on time? And a client chances are moving, but it was instances when we took over a year ago when we saw some discrepancies and people getting paid on time, but that's our main focus, to make sure the vendors are paid.
Listen, I started off by saying, I know you guys are on top of it, and Joe, I know you begin every meeting with, are the contractors and subs being paid? So I appreciate that. I guess what I think we're all seeing is that things seem to be getting bogged down in process. And just again, like there's something going around where it needs 11 signatures before we can get it done.
Yeah.
So how we can help, as you point out, Sarah, I think quite rightly, all of our vendors are important to us, but this is a public safety issue.
Yes.
First and foremost. And I just want to make sure that if there's things process wise that we can streamline in order to make your jobs easier, that we're doing.
Yeah, and I would, just to be completely transparent, there are definitely issues, on the project management side, and we're going to have to address those.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you all very much.
Okay, moving on to traffic signals. So DPW is responsible for 462 signalized intersections around the city, including those that are on the state highways and state roads. So we're in a good place in terms of outages. Unfortunately, the outages we've had have been there for quite some time. So Rampart and Common, the signal has been out. It needs a mast arm and a signal cable, and then Fats Domino and Galvez, which needs a signal cable. So this is work that unfortunately our internal crews cannot address. When there are issues that are caused by power outages or some knockdowns, there are times when our internal crews can address them, and they do address them quite quickly. But for work like this, we need contract support to be able to do it. So currently, we do not have a traffic signal repair contract in place. We have put this work out for bid several times. Unfortunately, we have not gotten responses. So I have done some outreach. We have done outreach, to other vendors just to understand why they may not be, why they not be interested in going after that work. We have made some adjustments to our specifications. And our modification and rebid is in the bid and award phase. So we do anticipate that that's going to go out within the next 30 days. I do know, I have done some outreach with some contractors. I do know there is another contractor who has gotten certified to do electrical work in the state of Louisiana. So I am hoping we do get responses. If for some reason we do not, our next approach will be to put out, to advertise just for work on those two intersections that are out. And then we'll have to go from there. But we're trying new things. We're trying to be flexible and a bit creative just to try to get some responses to do this work. I would also like to mention that we do have an ARPA funded contract out. Right now it's out for advertisement. This is for work to our traffic signal mast arms. This is rewiring work so that in the event of a major storm or wind event and those mast arms turn, this will essentially weatherize them so that they can, continue to be operational. Okay, so last slides address our Department of Public Works and Sewage and Water Board Max Pay program, which again, Steve Nelson briefed about a little before. So again, Sewage and Water Board, they continue to perform routine repairs. Obviously, we've got, very, very old pipes around the city that require repair. And so what we're doing is assisting Sewage and Water Board with its backlog. And so we've invested $8.6 million in bond funds to try to help with permanent pavement over their cuts to help make the roads safer and just help with this quality of life issue. So our city's contractor for this program is Fleming Construction, and our DBE contract monitor is Wingate, and they're managing the budget as well as assigning out the work. In an effort to increase performance and efficiency, the work orders have been grouped geographically into zones, and that's what you're seeing on this map. And all of the locations that we complete, we submit to Sewage and Water Board so that they can close those pavement work orders in CastWorks to make sure that we are coordinated. So as of now, we've got 235 locations completed. We have 48 locations that are currently under construction. Actively, we are working in Zone 6, so that's French Quarter, Chimay, and Faubourg Marigny. 4.5 of the 8.6 million has been expended to date, so we've got 4.1 remaining. So the budget, we're going to stretch that budget as far as we can to be able to address as many cuts as we can and support our partners at the Sewage and Water Board. So that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer questions.
And if I could, the council, that's one of our top priorities is service cuts throughout the city. It's going to be one of the priorities. I was just talking to Gassan this morning about preparing for the Super Bowl 2025. The more aggressive we can get to close the service cuts, which they're happening every day. I don't know how many pop up every day, but I'm sure it's hundreds. With our old infrastructure under the street. So what we're in the process of doing a bond sale for this year. And hopefully before the end of the year, we're looking at ways through DPW to still address those as we go through 2024 to correct some of those. I know it's a problem for the residents and the council districts, but those service cuts, keeping up with them, it takes money and time.
I know that Council Member Harris has a question. I do want to say one thing, even though I'm chairing this meeting, there's something that I can't avoid, so I have to leave and I have to actually be back here for a 1 o'clock Transportation Committee. So I'll look forward to seeing the members who are on that committee. But I just wanted to, before I leave, just say I appreciate the communications, especially I see our interim director actually communicating directly to our requests from citizens, and it makes citizens feel good when they're getting that information from the top. I know there's a lot to be done, and I am pleased to see some projects in our district moving forward. I kind of smile all the time about Music Street. Music Street is rolling. We're gonna have a Music Street Festival.
Right, and I can tell you, that's a good point, Councilmember Green, because, this year, one of the efforts we've done, me and Sarah, is contract enforcement. We have no more time to wait while contractors come to the point to finish neighborhoods. So now we've sent out probably 2 or 3 cure letters to say, hey, 30 days, finish the job. If you can't finish the job, we're going to terminate the contract. So we're getting really aggressive for the construction companies to get out of those neighborhoods, leave a quality project so we can start letting some of these new projects in the city.
It's good that I'm able to share communications from you with members of the community. I mean, this severe disruption sometimes that takes place in communities, now people can see some projects being completed. And if you get my newsletter, you'll see that I highlight when I can that where there's construction in certain areas, we recognize the inconvenience that it causes, but there are completed jobs and you need to see.
Right, council member. It's a big city. And I mean, the residents are first responders. They're the first folks to let us know when it's a problem. And we try to get people from the department out there as soon as we can to talk to the residents and see what has actually happened so we can get the vendors to provide some type of solution.
All right, still a lot to be done.
Yes, sir.
6,300 music. So
6,300 music.
the curbs and base course are
Right.
down. Paving is set for September 13th. And I have a calendar in my calendar and I plan to be out there.
You just let me know when you're gonna be out there for the
September
start of it. That's gonna be exciting. So Councilmember Jeruso is gonna chair the remainder of the meeting. Councilmember Harris has questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Sarah, thank you for your communication. I know I can text you on a Saturday and say there's a traffic light out and you'll respond right away, day or night. So I really appreciate your work and the communication has exponentially increased since y'all took over. So thank you. And Joe, we're due for some site visits soon. Speaking of site visits, in the Central City project around New Zion in the Mardi Gras Indian Council headquarters, there was a major repair done, but the quality control is not there yet. So I'd like to schedule a visit with y'all.
Yeah.
Because the transition from old work to new streets, it's rough at LaSalle and Third.
Yeah, they're definitely not done there, but we can do that.
Okay, great. In particular, I want to talk about service cuts because it hurt my heart to see again in Central City, a brand new street paved and then a service cut. So I asked Steve this on Monday, is there any way to coordinate? I know that accidents happen, that water lines break, but having a service cut in a brand new paved street hurts my soul.
No, I agree with you. So obviously, every street is not full depth reconstruction. So we're not necessarily addressing the utilities on every block. So this is going to happen. I can tell you that, ahead of a project starting, there is coordination directly between the sewage and water board and city project manager. And so everything that's in their CastWork system for open repairs that's in the project area, is reviewed at that time. But I think given the age of the pipes around the city, these things are going to happen. But we'll certainly, I would like to know the one you're talking about specifically to look into it, just to find out.
We'll talk offline.
Okay.
Because you know the location. So I also want to talk about specifically in Gerttown around the 2nd District Police Station. Again, I talked to Steve Nelson about this. We did the tour. The road conditions there are so poor that it's impacting public safety. I know that this is scheduled for repair, but is there any way to expedite repairs around police stations, not just the 2nd District, to make sure that the streets are passable to police vehicles?
Yeah, and I know we did come out there to do some asphalt patching to try to improve the area. Obviously, we have a future project, but that's not in the outlook for this year. So we'll take another pass. I'll see what we can do, in terms of adding some asphalt just to improve drivability.
Yeah.
I'll go out there personally and take a look.
Yeah, the Captain Glenn is saying they're literally losing cars in potholes and, again, it's impacting public safety. Matt has 3 pages of questions for y'all, but I will spare you that. And I actually would love to sit down with y'all, schedule a meeting soon and go through these questions. Again, I think that we're seeing vast improvement, but there are still areas where we're getting a lot of complaints, specifically in Marleyville, Central City, and in Mid City, where there are still open projects. So we'll go through those with Matt. I'd love to sit with you this week or next so we can go through the particular issues. I also want to make note of the Camp Street project. I know you're doing task-based orders. It looks like 2 blocks off of Louisiana have been completed, but I haven't seen any workers out, and I drive that probably every day. So I know it's hot. I don't know what's going on, but if y'all could take a look at Camp Street and see what the status is. And secondly, on the Camp Street project, there's some vegetation that still needs to be infilled. And I guess, I don't know what the status.
So that typically happens at the end of the project, but I'll
Okay.
find out. I mean, Camp Street is on our outlook. I think it's supposed to be finished in October or November.
It
So
doesn't
I'll
look
find
like
out.
it will. So yeah, let's schedule that meeting and sit down soon.
Sounds good.
Thank you. You all have anything else before? I have 2 comment cards.
No.
Okay, great. Just making sure. Is Taylor Veal still here? No? Okay. And then, Mr. Green, I know you filled out a couple cards. I'll give you a little bit more than 2 minutes if that's what you want on your 3 separate items. Good morning. Take your time.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Meredith Green, 7576 Briarheat Drive, New Orleans, East resident. Came to the meeting today, I have issues with what Sewage and Water Board, as my comment card said. I had specifically it was a 32 North Oak Ridge. There's a water leak. There's standing water on the pavement and into the street. And the problem with that is I'm not sure if the leak was caused by the street construction, because it's right where they have some incomplete street construction. I've been talking to Ms. Porteous about it for a couple of months now. I've been working with Troy with road work for a couple of months. They say it's gonna happen, they say it's gonna happen. Now, Ms. Porteous says it's gonna happen by September. So now I have to wait till October to see if it happens. So hopefully it happens, but the problem is, I'm hoping that construction company that has this work incomplete is not getting any other city work. I haven't dwelled into it to see exactly who's running the incomplete work to see if they're getting any other work. I haven't did that, and that's fine. Next thing I had on my comment card was Bundy Road. There was supposed to be some barricades to try to protect the investment the city made with the abatement of that Bundy Road property, the previous Hardwood Oaks condominium. So they abated almost 300,000 the city spent, and that was fine. But then we're supposed to block it, and to my knowledge, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, it's not done yet. Or is it done?
You're correct. It took a little bit of time to finalize the CEA with DOTD because we didn't have those Jersey barricades. That has been executed. So as far as I know, I'll check in with DPW maintenance. They just had to, I think, pick up the barricades and get them in place. So that will happen. And I can
See,
circle back.
it's like it will happen, but it's not happening. But I mean, it's just gonna have to will happen. I just come here as a citizen, to point out these issues. And I'm pretty patient, but I'm getting older. So I guess that maybe that's why I'm so antsy about these things, because I don't have a lot of time. Like I don't have a lot of time right now, and I realize and I appreciate the time. And the other thing, my other pet peeve is the 8501 Lake Forest Boulevard. I have pictures. I can go back 2 years. I've been tracking that site. The site was clean, and they had an illegal dumping activity that moored the site basically. So now the public has to walk back into the street. So I've been working on this for a while now, and me and Ms. Porteous had discussed this, whether it was a Department of Public Works issue or a Mr. Mulligan issue. And I'm not a referee or anything. I'm just a regular citizen, and I hope someone can help me to get the public safe out there at 8501 Lake Forest. There's a lot of things on my mind. I could stand here and talk for a while, and I appreciate the time.
Well, we appreciate your coming, and I know Sarah's getting ready to jump in.
Okay.
I think the best. thing
Thank
that
you
we-
so much.
Well, and let's see what we can do, maybe offline about trying to get some deadlines, because I think that's what you're really asking for.
Yes, sir.
Is when can we get it completed?
Exactly.
And I don't, and listen, I'm starting to go gray, so I don't want you to get any grayer than you are.
Okay, well, I don't have
All right.
any hair to get gray, but my wish today. Thank you so
And you
much.
know, Councilmember Jerusalem, and I think we talked about this. One of the main intents of the aggressive cure letter is just that, is that once we give a cure, if contractors don't get on board and we terminate their contract, they won't be doing construction for us anymore.
We got,
So that's where we're going.
All right, well, thank you very much. We lost quorum, so we will just adjourn without a vote.
We have a couple of comments for Public Works.
How many comments?
4.
All right, let's do it.
This first one is from Deborah Lombard. She references a service request number and a location on 1600 block of Pine Street for a streetlight knockdown leaning, and it was opened in May 17th, 2023. And it still has not been fixed. The street's very dark and dangerous to drive on, considering very large potholes in the immediate area. Why does the streetlight repair take 3 3/4 months to repair? This is 2023-1000382. And her name is Deborah Lombard. The next one is from Jerry Cook III, and he says, I'd like to know when the city will the city invest in repairing major streets in New Orleans East that they've done throughout the rest of the city, in particular Lake Forest Boulevard from Mayo to Bullard needs to be addressed, as well as Morrison from Gannon to Mayo. I've seen nothing but small repairs on these streets since Hurricane Katrina. East residents are hopeful these will be addressed soon. The third comment is from Clifford Dugar, who says, any updates on the paving of Press Drive between Chef Highway and Old Gentilly Road? It's heavily traveled from people leaving Suno, Pontchartrain Park, Walmart, Gentilly Woods, horrible condition next to Goodyear and Walgreens, leading to and from the interstate. And the last one is from Brad Ott, who says, please inform us what work is left to be completed with the removal of traffic safety infrastructure on 2 arterial roadways in Algiers. Specifically, how much has this work cost to remove and realign the roadway from separate protected traffic lanes for motorized and non-motorized vehicles? And please also outline whether or not this work exceeded the city council budget allocation last fall that became effective January 1, 2023 of $300,000, and what more needs to be accomplished, including also the posting of speed limit traffic wayfinding signage in order to realign these major Algiers roadways to be available now as shared traffic lanes. And that's it for the online comments,
Do you want me to respond to any of those?
if you'd like.
Okay, I can respond to the bike lane reconfiguration. We did use the 300,000 that was allocated in the budget for this year. We did not exceed that amount. The reconfiguration is still in process on MacArthur. I believe Newton has been completed. There are still some flex posts, I believe, that need to be removed. There is some signage. We'll have to look at the signage, the speed limit signage, and see what needs to be removed. The city does not do wayfinding signage, but we will take a look at do an assessment of the street signage just to see what's needed there. And there is, I think there was one question about, there is a project that is in planning that we're doing in partnership with the Regional Planning Commission on Morrison. And I can't remember the cross streets, but that is in planning. It's going to include the bridges as well as a patch mill and overlay on Morrison. So we do have a project plan there.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Curran. Thank you all to DPW. Thank you, Mr. Spooner, for being here. And we will be back at 1 o'clock for transportation. Thank you all.